Hi guys! Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. This is me, Sean from QP Tapuchon. So, this video is the second video of the lecture series regarding the review materials for the upcoming Agriculture Licensure Examination. But I'm only giving review materials for soil science, which I studied before. So, sana napanood nyo yung first video. It's all about the introduction of soils and the function of soils. And sana for this video meron kayong matutunan. And if you are new to my channel, please click the subscribe button and it will help me a lot. Thank you very much. Bye.
This lecture, this is the second part. We are going to talk about the different factors affecting the development of the soil, particularly climate, living organisms, relief, parent materials. Usually, ang mga factors na naka-apekto sa pag-form ng lupa ay inabbreviate natin siya into CLORPT. Climate, living organisms, relief, parent materials, at saka time. But since medyo malaki nga yung topic na to, so dinivide ko siya into 3 parts. So this is the first part of the second video. We are going to focus on the effect of climate, living organisms, relief, and parent materials on soil formation. So as I told you, climate, particularly precipitation and temperature, it's the amount of rainfall that is present in the area, as well as the temperature, primarily comprises about the climate. And we also have living organisms, which include vegetation, microorganisms, soil animals, and most especially the effect of human activities. Kasi part din naman ang man for living organisms. Then we also have relief, which includes slope, aspect, and landscape position. Parent materials, which can be geologic or organic precursors to the soil, and the time. So these are the factors affecting the development of the soil. And soil vary from place to place because nagkakaiba yung mga intensity ng bawat factors na present sa isang area. So later we are going to discuss that. So climate. When we talk about climate, ano yung nakikita natin usually dyan? Diba? When we look at the weather report, it usually talks about rainfall and temperature. So rainfall considers the effective precipitation. It depends upon the timing, topography, and soil type kasi the water will help the weathering processes of minerals, its transportation and relief of elements. Effective precipitation kasi minsan, di ba, umuulan ng malakas pero short yung duration, or kung minsan naman umuulan ng mahinang ulan pero mahaba, matagal yung duration. So that's why we considered effective precipitation for rainfall. And then we also have temperature, which affect the rate of weathering. When we look at this picture, you can see different plants depending upon the climate of each area. So here you have yung may mga puno ng niyog, tropics. So there you have high amount of vegetation. And then we have there, on the other side, we have there the temperature. So yung blue line na yan, makikita natin temperature, while the green line talks about vegetation. And then above, yung may mga clouds, you can find there the precipitation, which has an average rainfall of, in tropics, for example, we have there in between 1,000 to 2,000 millimeter per year, or 100 to 200 centimeter per year of rainfall. Then we have there the desert, which is less than 25 centimeter per year, so it's less than 250 millimeter per year rainfall. Then we have there the temperate regions, which has 500 to 2000 millimeter per year of rainfall. And then we have the Arctic, which has a less than of 250 to 500 millimeter per year rainfall. As you can see, the temperature, it also varies from 0 to 20 degrees. And on the other side, the vegetation is about non-moderate and high. So when we look at tropics, yung may mga puno ng niyog, the vegetation is very high at its maximum. And kasi maulan siya. So what happens there is that kung maulan siya, the plants are going to have, because plants needs water for them to grow. So you expect plants to be very robust. Like for example, in the Philippines, you can find green forest, rainforest for areas that are tropical. When we look at the desert, it has only less than 250 millimeter per year of rainfall, and the temperature is from high, medyo bumababa siya. So you can see, if you notice, medyo yung amount of vegetation will also be very less. So the green line, it can be about none. Kasi nga, except for plants na makakatolerate sa mainit na temperature at hindi masyadong nangangailangan ng tubig like cactus. And then we also have the temperate regions. Temperate regions, the vegetation is also good. And there you can find conifers. It has a rainfall of 500 to 2,000 millimeter per year. And the difference between the tropics and the temperate regions is that it almost has the same amount of rainfall, but then you can see the temperature is very different. So we have there high, the temperature there is moderate, around moderate. And then we also have Arctic. Arctic has also less than 25 to 50 millimeter 500 millimeter per year, like the desert, but then the temperature is very low. So you can also see there, although it has the difference there is mababa yung kanyang temperature, so masyadong malamig dyan. So you know that not all plants can tolerate cold weather, at saka less than yung kanilang rainfall. So this is the effect of climate on the development of the plants, as well as meron din siyang effect ngayon sa development ng lupa kasi different vegetation can affect the development of the soil that will develop in your area. So later on, titingnan natin yan. Nasabi ko nga ang climate is a function of rainfall and temperature, both rainfall and temperature. Because climate affects vegetation, so ito yung kanyang effect. The higher rainfall and temperature will increase the rate of weathering and soil development because it will result to greater leaching. So ito yung weathering. Ano bang ang weathering? Ito yung pagdi-disintegrate ng rocks into small particles. Later on, we are going to discuss about weathering. And then, lower rainfall and temperature, pag hindi masyadong maulan at saka malamig, cold and dry, it has low effect on plant growth and decomposition, so there will be less weathering that can be expected in the area. So that is why the effect of climate to soil formation is very important. And some of the soil varies because iba-iba din ang kanyang climate, iba-iba ang klima sa lupa na ganyan. Even though we are in the Philippines, for example, we are in the Philippines, same ang ating climate. We are in tropical areas. We are in tropical areas, but then the whole Philippines has different types of climate. So meron tayong type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4. It depends upon the area. So may area sa Pilipinas na masyadong maulan at saka mainit. Meron namang areas na maulan siya pero medyo malamig. Meron din namang area na malamig at saka maulan. At saka meron ding area na mainit at saka hindi masyadong umuulan. So in those areas, sa iba't ibang provinces ng Philippines, you can expect there different kind of soil, even though we are in one tropical region. Because we have different types of climate. So, depende din yan. So, pag masyadong maulan at saka mainit, mabilis mag-weather ang lupa. So, mabilis siyang mag-decompose yung mga organic matter ng tanim na nakapalibot doon. So, it will have an effect on the formation of the soil. So,
Summary for the effect of climate on the soil formation. Higher rainfall and temperature, pag maulan at saka mainit, increases the rate of weathering and soil development. Kasi there will be a greater leaching or downward movements of particles. It can be organic matter to the lower part of the soil. Samantalang lower rainfall and temperature, which is cold and dry, it has a low effect on plant growth and decomposition. Siyempre, hindi masyadong tumutubo yung mga tanim dyan, guys. So, yung ma-accumulate na mga organic matter will also be less, thus resulting to less weathering. Now, we'll go to the second factor, which is living organisms. And that includes vegetation, soil organisms, and human activities. When we say animals, it includes earthworms, crayfish, scorpions, which mixes the soil and destroy the horizons of the soil vegetation. Ito yung mga tanim na nakatanim palibot doon sa lupa na yon. And syempre, yung mga nakatanim doon, hindi naman yun forever natutubo. And through time, mamamatay yung mga tanim doon, it will be decomposed, it will be decayed, and there will be an addition of organic matter. Then we have there, if we compare the grassland and the forest land, grassland are soils na masyadong madamo. Siyempre, yung mga damo, hindi naman yan pangmatagalan yung kanilang life cycle, di ba? So, siguro mga after ilang months or after a year na mamatay na yung mga damo doon. So, you can expect an addition of organic matter to the upper 2 feet of soil due to the fibrous root system of grass plants. So, yung mga damo, every time na mamamatay siya, mamamatay din yung kanyang mga root system or mga ugat. And those are developed within the 2 feet of the soil. Samantalang sa forest soil, ang addition ng organic matter is only concentrated to the upper 4 inches kasi yung mga source of organic matter doon are only coming from the leaves na nahuhulog every time na nahuhulog siya. So yun lang yung source ng organic matter na nahulog doon sa surface ng soil. This slide shows us the difference between the soil profile of grassland versus forest land. So on the left side, we have there the soil profile of soil under grassland vegetation, and on the right side, we have there the soil profile under forest vegetation. Dun sa grassland vegetation, if you notice, the A horizon is medyo malalim, medyo makapal siya. We have there the A1 and the A2. So we have there organic matter accumulation. Ito yung, kasi nga diba, sabi ko nga kanina, yung mga gamot or ugat ng mga grasses, syempre nag-accumulate siya dun sa upper 2 feet ng soil. So, pag namamatay yung mga damo na yan, it will be decomposed. And those organic matter will go, pag umuulan, nakakarry siya downwards. So, kaya medyo makapal yung A horizon sa grassland vegetation. And then, after the A horizon, you can find the B horizon, BT, which is also an accumulation of clay, hydrous oxide.
Then we have the C1 and we have the C2 and the C3. So disintegrated weathered parent material and the accumulation of calcium carbonate and calcium sulfate, and the relatively unweathered parent material for the C horizon. If we compare to the right side, kita mo, the O horizon, which is coming from the leaf litters, and then yung A horizon, medyo manipis lang siya kumpara dun sa grassland vegetation. So the low accumulation in the forest soil surface is due to the acidic nature of the needles, inhibiting microbial attack and breakdown. So, uulitin ko lang ha. When plant dies, leaves are dropped onto the soil surface where microorganisms can attack and decay plant tissue. And the organic matter, ito yung source ng food ng mga microorganisms, increasing their population in the soil. So, pag marami kang na-accumulate ng mga plant residues, you can expect there na marami ding mga microorganisms na present doon kasi nga, they have their source of food. And these organisms utilize easily digestible materials like simple sugars and carbohydrates found in the plant materials, leaving more resistant materials such as fats and waxes behind. So yung mga madali lang nilang makakain, like simple sugars and carbohydrates, ito yung mas mabilis nilang so yung mga microorganisms, nagagamit nila kaagad yung mga easily digestible materials like sugars and carbohydrates. Pero yung mga fats and waxes, naiiwan nila doon kasi nga medyo nahihirapan silang i-digest yun. The material left behind is not easily decomposed and it comprises the humus found in soil. And this humus acts as a gluing agent, glue, parang nakapaste siya, to hold primarily soil particles like sand, silt, and clay together to form secondary aggregates or beds. And these organisms and the humus, they help create aid in the soil development and the formation of soils. As I mentioned kanina, mas makapal yung organic matter na or humus formation na ma-expect natin in the grassland soils compared to the forest land soils. And the reason behind this is that dead grassland plants tend to have a somewhat neutral pH as compared to the forest leaves, which tend to have an acidic pH. So the relatively basic pH of the grassland plants make them easier for microorganisms to degrade and turn into humus. So mas madaling mag-work yung mga microorganisms in the grassland kasi nga hindi siya acidic. So mas mabilis nilang ma-decompose yung mga organic matter compared dun sa forest land soil. So the needles or the leaves from the have an acidic pH. And it is difficult for microorganisms to degrade, thus the humus content of the forest soil tend to be less than the grassland soil. And the acidic nature of the forest litter causes acids, so yung acidity niya, to flow through the soil profile and help develop horizons quicker than a grassland soil. The acids, so since nga maraming acids dito sa forest soils, can dissolve soil materials and redeposit them deeper into the soil, which helps more quickly create horizons. I hope, guys, that this was clear to you, the effect of microorganisms and the vegetation on the development of the soil. Aside from the microorganisms and the vegetation, humans also affect the development of the soil profile. So, for example, the kaingin system or yung pagpuputol ng mga punong kahoy, syempre, kung wala na tayong mga punong kahoy, the accumulation of organic matter will also be less. So, the development of the soil profile will also be affected. And minsan, because of the use of heavy pesticides application, the microorganisms present in the soil will also be less, which affects the decomposition of the organic matter. And then, at the same time, meron din siyang effect sa
profile development. And when we till the soil, kung binubungkal natin yung lupa, we are destroying the structure of the soil, and some of the minerals, some of the particles, soil particles, goes down to the lower part of the soil profile, soil horizon, kaya nagkakaiba na rin yung composition ng lower horizons ng ating lupa. So, those are the effects of living organisms on the soil development. Now, we'll go to the third factor, which is relief or topography. So, we discussed already the effect of climate for the CLORPT. So, we have the climate, living organisms, and now we have the relief. So, this is the soil's position in the landscape, which has a very strong influence on soil development. So, the sloping aspect determines amount of solar radiation absorbed, and it has an interaction with vegetation. The moisture regime is affected by micro-topographic changes, which in turn controls vegetation distribution. So, kung titingnan natin yung soil na to, this is also taken from the Book of Brady. This is the hydrological sequence of soils formed under influence of relief. So, meron tayong different profiles dyan. So, have soil profile 1, soil profile number 2, soil profile number 3, and soil profile 4. So, these are the different soils na mapoform when you have different slope or topography. When you have different topography. So, here you can find, so meron dyan sa soil katina. So, we have there the well-drained. So, at the summit, yung pinakatuktok ng bundok. And then we have there the shoulder, which is moderately well-drained. So, dito, pag titingnan natin yung soil profile at the number 1, the soil, you can expect soils there to be well-drained kasi malalim yung kanyang depth. So, there's a lot of movement of the water. So, you can expect there that the water can drain very, very good. So, the soil that will be developed there will have well-drained soils. And then we have there moderately well-drained soils dito sa my shoulder. And then we have there in the number 3, somewhat poorly drained soil. Syempre, namimit yan na yung limit ng soil. So, yan. And then you can find there, you have there rusty mottles around roots. So, meron dyan mga glade soils because the water can accumulate. So, it has a blue or gray color of the mottles. No? And then we have there at the bottom, you can find there poorly drained soils. So, you can find there a lot of mottles. Ibig sabihin na nag-accumulate yung tubig dyan sa soil na yan. So, the effect of topography has a very, very strong influence on the development of the soil. So, here, so it's the same, no? So, titingnan natin to. We have the summit. Summit is pinakataas na part ng soil, ng bundok, when we have a hill or a slopey area. Then, we have the shoulder. Shoulder ang tawag kasi nga, it's like our shoulder na from meron siyang movement pa downwards. And then we have the back slope. And then we have the foot slope. So kung titingnan natin yung right picture, so we have there in the summit, we have there A, BT, and then C. And then in the shoulder, we have the development of soil horizon which has thin A, thin B horizon, and we have the C horizon. And then at the end, in the foot slope, tingnan nyo dyan, marami ng layers na na-form kasi a lot of sediments will be deposited through time. So, for the summary, summit will have a minimum erosion kasi flat yung area and maximum soil development. The greatest horizonation and tend to be deep but lighter in color due to leaching. So, kasi mayroon siyang downward movement ng mga materials, organic matter, and clay particles and others. And then we also have the shoulder. Shoulder will have the greatest erosion, so there will be least water infiltration, the greatest runoff, prone siya for erosion, and there will be a minimal soil development and tend to be shallow. The back slope, on the other hand, yan sa my red part, will be similar to summit unless slope is more than 20%. And then we have the foot slope or valley. We'll have the deposition of materials from upslope. So, titingnan natin, marami na siyang mga layers na na-form. And it can be, since mababa nga siya nga side part, it can be near water table due to collection of greater quantities of water and tend to be deeper, darker, and contain more horizons due to material deposition and accumulation from top of hills. So here in this photo, you can find same area, same bedrock, but then they have different soil profile, which is formed according to the relief or the topography of the soil, kung saan siya makikita. In the shoulder part, you can have there steep slope, very little filtration, and the water erodes the top soil. So, dyan sa back slope, dito nga side sa may average soil, it has a gentle slope since hindi na nga siya slopey masyado. There is some filtration and there will be less erosion of topsoil. And in the flatland, dito sa pinakamababa, since most of the soils na na-erode, nakikarry, it will be deposited in the flatlands. There will be great filtration. Soils from uphill are deposited here, and you can expect here this part will have a higher fertility compared to the other part of the area. So yan. And this is the effect of the slope aspect. The direction the slope faces is important when slope is more than 10%. So the south-facing slope is, we have there colder soils or less evaporation, and it can have more leaching, thus more soil development. Samantalang pag north-facing yung lupa, since it has more impact ng sun, the soils gets a lot of sun, so medyo mainit siya kumpara dun sa south-facing. So there will be more evaporation, less leaching, thus less soil development. So temperature of the soil also affects the slope also affect the soil temperature. And then these are some of the photos taken when we have our vacation in Talaingod. Nung umuwi ako sa Pilipinas this year, we have the chance to visit Talaingod in Davao del Norte. And it's a very nice place, guys. So if you have time and you have the opportunity, please visit the Talaingod in Davao del Norte. So you can find there is a most hilly, no? So marami siyang mga mountains na kung makikita mo dyan, it's the same area, but then you can find different kind vegetation depending dun sa slope, depending dun sa area. Syempre kasi the slope, yung direction ng sunlight will also be different. So kung titinan mo sa lower picture na yan, so tingnan natin yung middle na hill, di ba? You see, at the top of the hill, medyo less yung vegetation niya. Kumpara dun sa bottom, itong yung napapagitnaan ng dalawang mountain. You can find there lush vegetation of trees. Why? Kumpara dun sa tuktok at kumpara dun sa mga gilid. Bakit kaya ganyan yung development ng vegetation dyan? Or tingnan mo yung sa baba, di ba? Masyadong mas maraming mga puno ng mga kahoy na tumutubo compared dun sa taas or sa tuktok. Why? Because this part, the lower part of this area, are areas na nagde-deposit yung mga topsoil na na-erode through time. So you can expect here in this side, the lower part of the area, mas fertile yung lupa na nade-develop dyan, mas thick yung mga material na nade-develop dyan, kaya mas maganda ang tubo ng mga tanim kumpara dun sa kumpara dun sa higher part na area. And since maraming mga puno dyan, so the accumulation of the organic matter from the leaves of the trees will also be more kumpara dun sa higher part. So magkakaroon, although same lang ang kanyang area, if you compare the soil profile from that and from the other side, it will be different. So I hope this is clear to you guys, and let me know if you have question about that. And then we also have the effect of the fourth factor, which is the parent materials. Parent materials, ano bang ibig sabihin yan? This talks about what are the soil and the nutrients ultimately come from. And these are mainly from rocks and minerals. So this is a very, very interesting part. Since malaki nga siya, it's a very big topic, hinati ko siya. So this will be the end of this lecture. For the next lecture, we will talk more about the effect of parent material on the soil development. And here, we have three kinds of parent materials. We have the residual, which are the parent materials like the bedrocks that are formed in place or in situ. We have also parent materials that are transported, meaning materials like sand, silt, and clay deposits where soils develop, not transport. And we also have parent materials coming from organic materials. So these are accumulated organic materials such as peat, soils, and bugs. So this is a very, very big topic, guys, and I hope you are going to watch for the next video. And in case meron kayong mga tanong, please leave me a message on the comment section. So thank you very much for watching, and see you again on my next presentation. Bye!